For this demonstration, we'll be using dressed fieldstone primarily, with variations shown as they apply to other products. The general technique shown here will apply to any installation with a 1/2-inch mortar joint. If your project has outside corners, always begin the install with those. Notice that each corner piece has a long leg and a short leg. These should alternate as you go up the corner. Apply mortar using any of the methods described in the mortar technique section. Press each piece into the mortar bed firmly enough to squeeze some mortar out around the edges of the piece. This will ensure a good bond. As you place each piece, be sure the mortar joint remains consistent. When using a ledge-style product like this country ledge stone, you'll also need to check your work regularly to make sure each stone is level and plumb. Stone should be applied around any openings before reaching it with the courses you are laying on the rest of the wall. If you're using standard flat stones instead of trim stones, take care to pre-select pieces that fit properly around the opening. Lay in a course of stones at the top of the opening that extends out at least 4 inches on either side. Then surround the opening with stone, working outward toward the rest of the wall. Once the corners and trims are in place, you can continue by laying the flat pieces. Windows, doors, and other openings can also be finished with specially designed trim stones. Here, coordinating Monticello trim, keystones, and sill pieces are used for a more sophisticated looking design. For windows, the sill is installed first. Bracket locations are determined by measuring from the bottom of the window down to the pre-cut groove in the back of the sill piece. Actual measurements will vary by installation. The brackets are installed into blocking at locations that allow for 2 brackets per sill. To install, simply apply a setting bed of mortar to the back of the sill. Align the pre-cut groove with the brackets and slide the sill into place. Then check for level. The brackets are designed to allow for minor adjustments in leveling and positioning during installation. For a door or a window after the sill is in place, proceed by installing trim stones along the sides of the opening. Next, center a keystone at the top of the installation. Then install the remaining trim stones, working from each side toward the keystone. Lay out the window and door trim pieces and cut as needed to achieve evenly spaced mortar joints. The last stone is cut to fit the contour of the keystone. The largest part of most cultured stone projects is installing the flat stones on the wall. In general, you'll want to lay the bottom stones first, then fill in toward the top. Ledge-style stones should be installed from the bottom up, checking occasionally to make sure each stone is level and plumb. Keep your mortar joints as consistent as possible, approximately a 1/2 inch wide, depending on the type of stone you're installing. The mortar itself need not be smooth between the stones just yet. We'll be getting to that shortly. As you work, use small pieces to fill in voids. If using a ledge stone product, choose pieces to ensure that vertical joints do not line up. You may have to cut or trim pieces to achieve a proper fit. Consider feathering the cut edges with a hatchet or nippers. When using a wet saw, be sure to clean the stone with clean water after cutting. For best finished appearance, coat cut or broken edges with mortar. If possible, position cut edges up when they're above eye level, down when below eye level. Remember to work at your own pace and be sure to stand back from time to time to evaluate your installation. Cobble field is a unique texture that is also generally installed with a 1/2 inch mortar joint. When using cobble field stones, note that a percentage of the pieces are slightly thicker than others. These accent stones should be placed randomly throughout the wall to add texture and shadow to the finished installation. While cobble-field stones are typically laid horizontally, a medium piece might occasionally be placed on end if needed. As you work, stop several stones short of any inside corners. Select and install the pieces that butt up against the walls on each side. They should be placed so that they knit together in an alternating pattern as shown. Continue this process as you work the stone up the corner. Then fill in the remaining wall area as before. After you complete a section or job, fill the joints using your grout bag. Start by troweling some mortar into the open end of the bag, like this, folding the end to form a seal. Then squeezing the bag, lay in a bead of mortar appropriate to the size of the gap. The mortar used for this step will need a little more water than the mortar used for the setting bed. After the mortar in the joint has become firm to the touch, thumbprint hard as shown. The joints are ready to be finished. Using a pointed wooden stick or metal grouting tool can press and rake out the excess mortar for a clean, uniform look. This joint is just right, while the one you see here has been raked too deeply. Consistency is the key here, so keep checking back on your previous work as a reference, both for finishing the joints and helping keep the joint width consistent. At the end of the workday, or when mortar is sufficiently set up, the finished job should be broomed or brushed to remove loose mortar and to clean the face of the stone. Never use a wet brush to treat the mortar joints. This will cause staining that will be difficult, if not impossible, to remove. Power washing equipment should never be used on cultured stone products.